Today in the testimony, what we just heard from is a hero police officer who ran by foot for a number of blocks as police officer Veve was dragged down the block in a stolen vehicle by this baby-faced bandit. We heard the heroics, how he stayed calm, and when he got there, he rendered aid to a police officer who had tumbled off that car after being dragged. This kid in this room, even though he looks young, is a potential cop killer. He chose to steal that car. He chose to run. He knew he was dragging a police officer, and he kept going until that vehicle stopped in an accident where police officer Veve rolled. Later on today, we'll hear from the wife of hero police officer Veve, and she'll describe how their life has changed, how each and every day Dalsh Veve has to struggle through the therapy, his rehab. And he does it with the same strength he did that day when he tried to stop this crime. We should never forget that New York City police officers are in danger each and every day. They accept that danger, but we should acknowledge that danger as well. Questions?
Can you give us an update on the Headley case?
One of the things I asked is that we allow this investigation to go forward and let the facts come out and let the facts determine what went right and what went wrong. Thus far, the investigation shows that New York City police officers acted properly, that HRA officers, after the police officers calmed and de-escalated that situation, then escalated it. And police officers were put in a difficult position. Once that HRA officer grabbed that woman who was attempting to leave and put her to the ground, police officers had no choice but to try to protect that baby and then place that person under arrest at the behest of HRA. But what I always ask, don't stand on the steps of City Hall and denounce police officers before the facts are out. Allow the investigation to move forward. Thus far, the investigation shows that our police officers de-escalated the situation. They were asked to come there. They tried to protect that woman, dialogued with that woman the entire time, and HRA officers escalated the situation, putting us in an untenable situation. Throughout that time, our police officers before and after acted properly. Look, this is a terrible time for all that's involved. But in terrible times, we need to take a deep breath, allow the facts to speak, and then determine if something was right or something was wrong, but not before the facts have spoken.
Pat,
yes, sir.
After it was de-escalated, the HRA officers jumped back in again and asked the NYPD officers to grab the baby. The NYPD guys went down, they tried to pull the baby out of all the...
What happened once that HRA officer brought that person to the ground? Our mission was to protect that baby. We were asked to, and naturally we would do that. And naturally, a mother would try to protect that baby. But our mission was to make sure that baby was protected and struggle to try to get control of the baby so we can remove that child from the scene and then safely place the woman in custody. Obviously, there was a struggle. But when that struggle goes, that's when it became more important to gain control of that child, to protect that child. That was the mission of our police officers that day. But again, in time as this investigation goes forward, I believe you'll come to the same conclusion that I've come to after looking at the facts.
Do you think it was, what did you think that the judge dropped the charges and she was released?
Well, that's something for the judge and the district attorney to decide. That role is theirs. My role is to try to speak to what the police officers were trying to do that day. And what the police officers were trying to do is protect that baby, de-escalate the situation, and they were well on the way to accomplishing that when other hands came in and created it to escalate again. Police officers then had to step in once again to try to protect that baby. A difficult situation, a chaotic situation, but in that chaos, if we slow down and watch and listen and follow the investigation, you'll see our police officers acted appropriately, and that day came there to try to do what's right talk their way through it, de-escalate, and was controlled by someone other than us that escalated it back up. But nonetheless, we still try to do the best we can in a definitely a chaotic situation.
Off topic?
Sure.
Okay, continue. What were you saying?
Yes, I'm sorry. Is it good?
Okay.
Okay.
A week or two ago in the Bronx, there was a drug deal went bad. Officer pursued the guy. A couple rounds were fired. Innocent bystander was hit. The officer was running down the street firing with one hand instead of taking a stance. Could you?
Any situation that police officers go in when there's gunfire, being police officers are being shot at, it's not like you're on the firing range in the calmness of our training where you're standing in line and you punch your arms out and hold your weapon. This is a police officer who was running, that was being fired at, and their mission always is to stop that threat. You have to stop that threat any way that you can. We're trained in both scenarios. We're trained with our arms and hands punched out, and we're trained with an arm behind our back. We train for such situations where things don't go by a script. Police officers de-escalated the situation. After some time of having discussions with her and imploring her to leave the premise because HRA was asking that she leave, she begun to leave. HRA then reached in and stopped her from leaving. That's when the escalation happened again, leaving our police officers in a terrible situation to try to protect the baby, calm the woman, and place her into custody. But after the investigation, those facts will come out. And then what we need to do is, once again, stand on the steps of City Hall and tell the true story, not the story that was told with no facts behind it.
I got a couple questions about Del Valle, if you can answer them.
Yes, sir.
Have you spoken to Commissioner O'Neill about the situation, and what did he say if you did?
And I've spoken with Commissioner O'Neill and expressed how outrageous that commissioner from oath's actions were towards that police officer. He agreed, as the statements that he put out, it's outrageous. No commissioner should speak to a New York City police officer or any citizen in that home. He should not sit in judgment of any city employee. If his temperament is to bully and abuse and curse at a police officer who's just asking for him to identify himself, which is routine going into City Hall. If you don't recognize them, you ask them to ID themselves. He refused and abused those police officers. They should look at this, they should investigate this, allow the facts to speak for themselves, and then fire him, because he should not be called a commissioner of any agency in this city if that's his temperament.
You've called for the firing. Do you think it's going to happen?
That's up to the mayor. We sent a letter to the mayor asking for his firing. Base it on the facts. The facts speak to it. After that investigation, fire him. There's no way that you should put someone with that temperament to rule over any city employee. If he doesn't have the temperament to take out his wallet and identify himself and go on the way, where he thinks he's more important than you or I or any other police officer, he should not be called commissioner, and he needs to be fired.
Have you spoken to the police officer involved?
We've spoken to the police officer involved, our attorneys have spoken to that police officer involved, and our police officer involved has been interviewed. And what she said is, he was abusive, she did her job, she walked the investigators through exactly what happened, and what happened is our police officers acted professionally. The commissioner acted irrationally and was out of control that day. If he cannot control his temper, he should not sit in judgment of anyone. Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate you covering these important stories. Thank you.
Thank you.